Welcome back again. And in our next section, we're going to be discussing about supplements to balance gut microbiota. So, Dr. Rohini, what types of supplements can we use, to manage gut dysbiosis? One is that can we self-medicate? Can we take it on our own? Or maybe our family member, friends, well-wisher is recommending, or do we really need to see a qualified professional for this?
I'll always say meet a qualified professional because you do not know what is the underlying cause. What works for one need not specifically work for the other. And like it is, like you said, the influencers. Somebody lost weight because of some particular kind of diet. It's not always going to work for you. You may try it out, but then it can cause you nutritional deficiencies. It can cause you other issues of the gut, and it can cause you gut dysbiosis. So, yes, besides having just the supplements, you can work on your diet first. So you can have foods that are rich in live microorganisms and fiber rich foods in your diet. So that also ameliorates the problem for a fair condition. But in certain cases where you need to intervene and there is major dysbiosis, you should go to a professional, get a test done so that you know which kind of bacteria, because you don't know whether it's the firmicutes or it is your bacteroides. Okay, so you need to be sure of what kind of supplement to take. Either that
And are
or
these
you
tests
follow.
available like any
Yeah,
lab?
they are. They are.
They
Yeah, they
are
are available in labs. Stool tests are available. You can
are
get it done.
available.
Most of your gastroenterology, departments and sections will have these tests. You can
Great.
get it done.
So everybody
And
can just go and do it. I mean, it's
you can
nice.
always do it. It'll tell you because you would be having symptoms. I think today's time and age, almost everybody's got symptoms
That's
like
true.
this. So if you're able to manage it with your diet, sleep, stress management, exercise, well and good. But if you feel you need intervention, you need dietary or supplemental support, you should meet a professional, a qualified dietitian or a doctor who can direct you further to a dietitian, because believe me, the dietitians would know more about the food aspect of it.
True.
Medication, yes, from the doctors, but yes, the diet counseling has to come from a mm, uh, professional dietitian or a
What
nutritionist.
are probiotics? I mean, we keep
Yeah.
hearing about probiotics, and I think today
Yeah.
everybody is taking some probiotic or the other. So, what are
Mhm.
probiotics?
Okay. Probiotics are supplements or foods that have live microorganisms within them, and with the live microorganisms, you are consuming the food. A common example is curd or yogurt. Okay, so very easy to understand. However, there are supplements. Now we've seen supplements when you talk about probiotic foods. They would be foods that have particular strains of these microorganisms which are known to promote health. Okay, and they would be in a stipulated quantity which is specified by the regulatory authority, which is FSSAI. So probiotic are supposed to have a particular strain. So there are certain strains of microorganisms, I will share the slide for that, which have been approved. So it can be bacteria, it can be yeast. Okay, so there are lactobacillus, there are bifidobacteria, and there are Saccharomyces species, which are usually there as your probiotic strains. When they incorporate it into a food, they can label the food as a food with probiotic or probiotic food. And it should be prominently also labeled that this is not a medicine. Okay, and they have to give in the list of ingredients the strains and the culture number of the strains that they are using, and the quantities which they are specifying should be present at the end of the shelf life, and how to store it once you've opened it, whether you've got to consume it in one go or if you can have it over 2 3 days but keep it refrigerated. So the basic quantity that they talk about is when you talk about a serve size. So this is something from your last video with with Shubhaprada, that the serve size is extremely important. In one serve size for a day, which is recommended by the manufacturer, there should be 10 to the power of 8, more than 10 to the power of 8 microorganisms in that one serve size.
Hmm.
Okay, so that is the criteria for probiotics. That should be the living colony forming units, it is called in
Correct.
technical terms. That is, if you culture it, those many number of viable microorganisms, robust ones, will form a colony. Okay,
Correct. So
so
that is
that is
again, sorry to interrupt you. That's
yeah,
where I think the difference between yogurt and curd. So
yes,
homemade
yes,
curd
yes,
does not really qualify to be a
yes,
probiotic, whereas a yogurt which says it's a probiotic yogurt
yeah.
is a probiotic yogurt. But that doesn't make curd any less, right?
No, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. Now, see, they make an effort to include the particular strain. A second is the numbers. These are the two things that are the determining factors. Okay, whereas when we make it at home, there is a wild culture, or even if we make it from curd from the market, there is a specific culture which we are using there. But the numbers are not in our hand. So, as with yogurt and curd also, if you keep it, it'll get the more lactic acid that is produced, it becomes inhibitive for the bacteria itself. So after that, the culture will actually diminish. So this is another factor wherein the probiotic will ensure it has acidity regulators again, in wherein it talks about food. So it prevents the microorganisms from growing to such an extent that they do not become inhibitory for themselves because of the excess acid production.
So
This is
therefore,
one aspect.
freshly made curd would be better because nowadays
Yes.
sometimes you make and you use it over a period of days. So what would be the right
Right. See,
timeline within which you finish the curd if it's
as
made at
long as your curd tastes good, it is not overtly sour, and it is again not you're refrigerating it and keeping it. It depends on the seasons, where are you living, all that matters. And again, there is also this class of my supplements called postbiotics. So
we'll come
even if
to
they
that.
have produced a lot of the acid, when you use it in a curry or something like that, you are still getting the benefit of these organic acids.
Right.
So, see, probiotic specifically is the live microorganisms, and it is covered under FSSAI under the FSS Nutra regulations 2022. So this is the updated one, and they have to label the any contraindications also, in case you're taking any drugs that can contraindicate or react with the particular kind of probiotic. So all these details have to be present on the label. It is important, like we you discussed, the first your first podcast was the best one, because everything flows from that. You should read the labels, understand the serving size, do not go overboard, and do not under consume also. So both the things. Yeah.
Now, so this have to be refrigerated, right? So basically, you have a lot of probiotics which are available. I'm not taking brand names here, but
Yeah, we even I'm
so
not.
then we usually tell them to, carry it even from the shop, or today they do deliver it in cold chain and then you keep
Yes,
it,
yes,
in the fridge and then
yes,
consume it. Because a lot of people will buy it
yes,
and then they,
yes,
in the fridge and then
yes.
consume it. Because a lot of people will buy it and then it's in the car exposed to this, to sunlight, and then actually, the organisms are
Yes.
no longer there, and then what you're consuming is only like cold milk, I mean a sweet milk. It's not really, a lot of
You need to
children
actually, bacteria will not die if it is exposed to heat. It is actually going to grow faster, because the refrigeration is to prevent it from growing too fast and producing a
okay.
lot of the metabolites. So the microorganisms are very much alive. The thing what you need to take care of is that after you expose it to heat, you consume it faster. You do not keep it for very long, because the bacteria has started. There is a certain cycle, a
Yeah,
bacterial growth, log phase, lag
true,
phase,
true.
and then
Yes, I
decline.
remember. Yeah.
Yes. So if we are there trying to keep it in that initial phase, wherein it's a lag phase before it starts proliferating. So
Get the
once it
best
starts,
benefits out of it.
yes, metabolites, once it starts using, because it is sitting inside food, right?
Correct.
So, and it can utilize all those nutrients and start growing.
Absolutely. So refrigeration is important. What about the probiotic, supplements that you get in the form of maybe capsules or
Yes.
powders?
Yes.
The
So
same.
now there is a lot of technology which has gone into this. They are lyophilized, that is freeze dried bacterial strains, which as soon as they are exposed to moisture and surrounded by food at the right temperature, they will start growing. So these are live cells which are just dehydrated and kept. So you have microorganisms in the form of capsules, powders. You have these sachets, okay, which you can either put in water and have, or just directly consume, or add it to your food as you're eating it. There are a lot of these formats that are available. There are gummies also, which are now coming in the market. So you can consume all of these. Probiotics also, they are absolutely safe. Okay, there is no issue with that, but you should know whether you need them or not, and in what dosage do you
That's
need them. So
What about
first,
idli and dosa? Because,
yeah,
often when we list down probiotics, I've often heard people say that idli and dosa is also a probiotic.
no, that I will tell you when we come to postbiotics. I'll
Sure,
talk
we
about
can
that.
just,
I have that.
uh,
I'm going to clear that doubt. Yes.
because that's another thing, which I
Yes.
think we need to clear the
Yes. See,
confusion
in
on.
dosa and idli, you have steamed cooked it at very high temperatures, or you've put it on a tawa, skittle, and you've done proper cooking of it. There is usually no microorganism left. The ones that are left are highly injured and they are, disabled. They are not going to be able to grow. Which is why when you keep idli, you can keep it at room temperature for almost a whole day without any issues. It is a fermented and it is slightly acidic, so it prevents growth of other microorganisms because of the lactic acid. Whereas if you keep a batter outside, it'll foam over, froth over, and you have lost batter basically, and it becomes overtly had originally because it has a pre-determined amount of lactic acid which is produced by the bacteria, and now the bacteria is no longer there in it. So
Correct.
that basically we'll
Yeah.
discuss when
So,
we talk
what
about
foods, if you
probiotics.
say, I mean, because there are a lot of, regional foods, for example,
Yeah,
like even pickles, or
yeah.
you have a ragi, fermented ragi thing, which is called ambali, I think, or right?
But
So,
there is
so
jowar,
these are things, yeah.
kambu fool, yes, in
Yeah.
the south.
So
Even
even
ponta bhat,
traditional foods, yes,
basically
oh my
the
God, pantavad. Because when we tell
panta bhat,
people
yes.
from East India to that you can have pantavad, they feel so happy, because they're like, you brought back childhood memories. And in
Yes.
fact, a lot of people now, at least our clients and patients, have started having it, and we can see the difference. One is
Yes,
they feel so
even
good,
in the south it is known as palai sor, or
right?
and in the north it is called boda bhat. So it is submerged in water overnight. It doesn't spoil. Basically, it's a healthy fermentation that's happening, and it's almost magical for the gut.
Correct. And then you have your black carrot kanji or the beetroot
Yes, yes.
kanji.
All your
So
kanjis and all the
traditionally also,
fermented drinks.
there's so
Yes,
many things which are there. So
yes,
going back, because again, pickles, when they are made maybe in the way we make it at home
yes,
versus when you buy pickle from outside,
yeah.
it is going to be different, right? So
There
the culture is going
there
to be,
will
and
still be microorganisms, okay, in that
right,
also. But when we make it at home, there is a prolonged fermentation that is done, which can be slightly rapid in case of a commercially produced pickle. There may be cooking involved and less of fermentation. More of fermentation happens in the traditional
correct.
pickles. Now,
And
if
that
you're
is why
talking
it
about
qualifies to be a probiotic,
yes,
so
yes.
so to
There are
say.
different kinds of pickles also. No? So there are these gobi, gajar, shalgam ka only the winters it is kept in the fridge. If you notice it, it's kept in the
Yes,
fridge because there is certain amount of fermentation that's happened. Whereas if you're adding vinegar to the food, then
correct.
the lactic acid bacteria might not grow.
I was going
So
to come
that
to that because
again,
outside most
yes,
pickles would add vinegar, and then therefore,
yes,
you're really not going to
yes,
get the benefits. It's also, again, going back to maybe traditional foods, ancient food wisdom,
yes.
making it at home. I think these are important messages that
Very, very,
I think I'm sure
very.
you and I would like to, make people aware that, go back to what your grandparents did. Of course, quantities is something that we always debate on, because we talk about grandparents and what grandmothers did, but then they did a lot of physical activity and labor
Yes,
which we don't do.
yes.
You can't eat the
We
amounts
cannot
that
even
they
compare. Yes. And
absolutely.
they are like their muscle mass was amazing. My grandmother, I remember she was sturdy till the end. She was walking on her feet and very sturdy, hard
Same
working,
here.
hardy lady.
My
We are
grandmother and
talking,
my
I'm
great
telling you.
grandmother both lived to be like close to 100, both.
Yes.
And
In
they
their
were so
90s.
they were
Yes.
so active. And I remember
Yes.
the work they did on the field. And I come
Yes.
from Mangalore, so every morning there was
Um,
maize, we call it's kanji, basically rice
yeah.
kanji. So that
Yeah.
was breakfast. And
Yeah.
then they were out on the fields working hard, and they were still so energetic.
Yes. Truly. Truly.
Amazing to see that. Yeah. And I hope that we again go back to it, and hopefully
Yes.
with this, podcast, we'll be able to encourage more and more people to
Can I add
look at.
a
Yeah,
little
sure.
something to the probiotics? Basically, how they work is because when their numbers are high in the gut, they are competitive for space in the gut. Okay, so when they are in larger numbers, they don't allow the pathogenic bacteria to latch on and stay on. Okay, that is one. Second, they enhance the barrier of the lumen. So pathogenic bacteria, only when they are in larger numbers, the gut integrity is disturbed. So that gut integrity also maintained because of lactic acid or probiotic bacteria. The other thing is, it produces these microorganisms also produce some anti microbial products naturally. So nisin is there, lactin is there. Okay, then hydrogen peroxide is produced by certain fermenting bacteria. So these become inhibitory for the bacteria that are coming as pathogens from the outside, and their gut integrity is maintained. The other thing is, because of the lactic acid that they produce when they are fermenting, they lower the pH of the gut, and pathogenic microorganisms need a higher pH to grow and to proliferate. So there are so many ways, there are complex mechanisms in the way they work. Can I just talk a little bit about prebiotics
Yeah,
before
yeah,
we?
I'm going to ask
Hmm?
you about that. So next is going to be
Yeah.
pre-sin and
Yeah.
postbiotics. So I think it's
Yes.
so beautiful the way God has actually, designed our bodies. I mean,
Okay.
it's such a beautiful machine, which is
It's a miracle.
so many things happening, and we sometimes take it for granted, right? So
Truly,
what
truly,
are
truly.
so we've spoken about probiotics. So what are prebiotics?
Okay, so we know probiotics are very healthy, they are very good, they're very powerful, but even the most powerful of people need nourishment. Okay, we need allies. And prebiotics are those, nutrients which the probiotics thrive on. Together, they form a more robust system inside the gut, whereby these are actually the beauty in this balance is that the bacteria are going to use foods that we cannot digest. We do not have enzymes to digest these fibers. That's why they call undigestible fibers, okay, both soluble and insoluble. So these are the ones that pass through our digestive system and reach the lower part of the gut undigested, and the bacteria need exactly this. Okay, so they act on this. So whether it is fructooligosaccharides or your galactooligosaccharides, your what else, there are lots. There is psyllium husk, you have inulin. All these things are the carbohydrates that are in the fibrous form, which the gut utilizes. And when you have a food which is rich in fibers, the probiotics are going to help the healthy bacteria thrive. So when we go for super or extremely processed or low fiber foods in terms of maida or a lot of fat in the diet, there will be a dysbiosis that can come in because the bacteria are deprived of um, the fiber or the cellulosic material that they are not that they need for growing and fermenting inside the gut. So we need to have a balanced diet. That is why that the plate, the
And
thali.
yeah, and I think that again brings us to a very interesting, we can have a discussion on this some other day, but I think the whole ketogenic diet, because it's such a high fat diet. And I wonder if there are studies done to see on the impact of these diets in the long run. I'm sure there are, but we'll have to look up on, gut health, because I'm sure this whole ratio will change. There will be some kind of a, I'm not sure whether there'll be gut dysbiosis, but that is something which is very interesting for us to maybe see, and maybe we can have a discussion on that, because today so many people, fat has become the new friend and carbs
Oh,
have become the enemy.
enemy,
So
I know.
and again,
And then,
the whole, like you're saying, the balanced diet,
yes,
just watch your portions, eat
yes,
everything. Diet diversity is
yes.
something that we all need to focus on, which we are losing track of, and we're only
Yes.
running after these extreme diets. One is which are not sustainable. And
Yeah,
we
it's
don't
not
know what are
sustainable.
the long-term
We can't.
consequences of these kind of.
Yes, there are a lot of health implications, and it has
Absolutely.
already been shown. It is keto diet is for a disease condition. It's not for the normal healthy person. You do not need it, right? And
Correct.
also another easy way of creating, I mean, a prebiotic in your diet is, if you're having rice or any food that starchy food, you keep it overnight, chilled and cooled, and keep it overnight in the fridge, and the next day retrogradation of starch happens, and you get resistant starch which the
Absolutely.
body is not able to digest. Your glycemic load is high, I mean low, and
Oh,
your glycemic index is low.
comes
It
down.
digests slowly, and that carbohydrate, which is resistant starch, also is fodder for our bacteria.
Absolutely.
Now, let me just give you a little bit about the regulation for prebiotic. There is a specified list of approved prebiotics which have been, released. There's a schedule 8 of the Nutra regulation, which gives the list of prebiotics that can be safely used, whether it's in food or as a supplement. And there is a limit of 40 grams per day should not be exceeded of the prebiotic. That is the
Okay.
only regulation when it comes to that, and it has to be declared on the labels. It has to always mention this product is a prebiotic food. Okay, so this is what.
So when we're talking about prebiotics naturally from food
Yeah,
again, and we
yeah,
tell people, so it'll be your onion, your garlic,
yeah.
then raw banana flour,
Yes,
raw
raw banana.
jackfruit
In
flour,
general, raw banana vegetable, and
yeah,
your sweet potatoes.
sweet
Very
potatoes,
good.
legumes,
Bamboo, your bamboo shoots. You would have your banana stems. Very good, rich sources of fiber also.
raw
Then also
jackfruit, kathal,
millets.
raw jackfruit.
Well, oh my God, really, raw jackfruit. It is really people are now using powders of raw
Absolutely. So I
jackfruit
have a
because
friend,
of the,
Mr. Joe. He actually, I'm not going to
he
take
is
the
the
brand
pioneer.
again, but the raw jackfruit flour, and he swears by it. And we've really seen it helps, whether it's
Yeah,
diabetes, and today he's talking about even reversing MASLD. But I have a lot of people who actually just mix that with curd and have it
yeah.
as it is. And again, it's a good probiotic and
Yes,
excellent
yes,
for gut
excellent.
health. So simple
Yeah,
things. You don't need to really make it too complicated, because I think in
yeah,
today's world we have to simplify it, because we all are hard pressed for time. We
yeah.
really don't have the time to do multiple things, cook,
Yeah.
like a multi-course meal. Just simple things
Yeah,
which are easy. And again, if you look at, whether it was onion, it was a very integral part of our diet.
exactly,
Even
exactly.
if you were the poorest person, you would have like a bhakri with that
Pyaz
thetsa with
roti. हाँ.
some raw onions and some
Some chutney.
lemon.
हाँ,
Absolutely.
basically.
Jhawas chutney. I'm from
Yes,
Maharashtra, that's why. And it
yes.
was so basic with a zunka on the
That
side or
thecha.
something.
Your peanut
It's,
thecha is
yeah,
basically so healthy.
amazing. So again, if
Yeah,
you look at it, our grandmothers didn't study nutrition science, but they applied
yeah,
it so beautifully to food. Whether you look at cereal pulse combination, whether you look at diet diversity, you look
yeah.
at prebiotic, probiotic, it's amazing. So I think just doing these simple
Really.
things can really
Yeah.
help, improve our gut health. And most important is, as much as possible, eat
Yeah.
ghar ka khana. I think that
Ghee ka
is,
khana. Yes,
people
yes.
are
And
just eating
see,
out
that
of
is our
packets.
traditional diets basically have been designed in a way where they have a balance of proteins, carbohydrates, and minerals and vitamins, and also something known as symbiotics. Okay.
Yeah, that was going
So
to be
the
my next question.
real magic of pre and probiotics happens when you have it in a combination, and it is the combination of pre and probiotic in a single meal or a single product that is known as symbiotic. The people think it is symbiotic. It's not symbiotic. It is syn biotic. So there is a combination of a carefully chosen microorganism set or a single microorganism, and then the food that it will need, the carbohydrates or the fiber components that it will need. So a lot of supplements also are now coming. There are two ways in which it can work. One is a complementary, where it is not exactly directly related, the kind of microorganism and the prebiotic which is provided, but it is generally good for the gut. The other is a synergetic one, wherein a synergistic one is in which the microorganism that is being provided in the supplement is the microorganism is combined with the your fiber, which is your prebiotic, which is specific to this particular microorganism. So it has a very, both of them work very well and ultimately help to consolidate the healthy bacteria in the gut by providing them the nourishment. Because like I said, in our current diet, a lot of the fiber part is missing. And
True.
maybe we need to sometimes, if you're not able to manage the diet, at least supplements will help us get there. you
Absolutely.
know
Very well said.
and
Now there's a new term, postbiotics. I think
yeah.
every time we're learning so much, and there's so much of research happening in this area. And, I'm sure there'll be more to share if we do this podcast maybe after a few months. But what are postbiotics? Because this is something which
Okay.
is very new now.
Okay, so we've talked about prebiotics, that is the living microorganisms. We've talked about
That's probiotics. Yeah.
probiotics, which is the living microorganisms. We've talked about prebiotic, which is their food, and we've talked about symbiotic, which is their union. Now let's talk about postbiotic. Okay, postbiotic is not bacteria as such. It is when the bacteria has lived and it's created that environment of healthy metabolites, and then it dies. Okay, and that residue, that that what it leaves behind is what the legacy of that bacteria is, what we call as postbiotic. Okay, so these postbiotic foods are foods that have been fermented and then probably cooked. Okay, so that's where our idli, dosas, dhoklas, kadis and everything will come. Okay, so you would have a lot of short chain fatty acids in that food. You would have bacteriocins, which are those natural antimicrobials. You would have enzymes which have been produced by the bacteria. Then you would have peptidoglycans, you would have lactic acid. So these all are having a lot of positive effect on our gut. Okay, these are the ones that ultimately in the gut the bacteria are going to produce this. So which is why they say, okay, but just because you cook the food now there is no benefit because the live bacteria is dead, but what the bacteria has done in the food is actually going to go to your body. So this is what is known as a postbiotic. All right.
Correct. If you see urad dal also, because it
Yeah.
produces short chain fatty acids in
Yes.
gut, and it's again an integral part of whether it's an idli or a dosa or
Yes.
a lot of our recipes.
Yes.
And
Yes. Methi,
every,
the
yeah,
methi dana which
methi,
is added, it is
yes.
so high in fiber and soluble fiber. Oh my God. If
You
you
can
pick up
imagine
methi
whoever
and
made this
grind it,
recipe of idli and dosa, if they patented it,
it's
I mean,
magical.
at that time, yeah,
I think.
because I don't know, there's so much of science behind that
Oh,
recipe.
seriously. There is wisdom. Actually, it's
Wisdom,
wisdom and
it's
experience
wisdom, yeah.
and what works for you, because there was a lot of experiential learning that happened in those days. So, see, postbiotics would be, you can have your foods that are like sauerkraut if you're putting it into a sandwich, a grilled sandwich. Okay, miso, your soft cheeses. Once all our cheeses are basically, all cheeses, cheddar cheese and everything is postbiotic. It has lactic acid, it has the proteolytic activity that has happened. And kefir, there is milk kefir, kefir water. Then there is sourdough bread. Okay, if we look at sourdough bread, the kind of fermentation it undergoes and the organic acids, etc., that it produces. So that is where we will get, our, of course, pickles, definitely. Yes.
Yeah, sourdough has become the new, again,
Yes.
the fashion
Yes.
food, so to say, but it is
Yeah.
healthy. That's,
Healthy. See,
uh,
bhatura. Let's just compare it with a common thing. Bhatura hai na. It is a fermented bread. So your bhatura or your, khameer wali roti, it is the same thing.
correct.
Yes.
Interesting, very interesting. I'm loving this discussion. I think now
Yes.
we'll move on to the last section, Rohini. It's been wonderful interacting with you. There's so much that I have learned, and I
Oh,
can't
please.
wait to share this, podcast with everybody. And because there's so many myths and misconceptions, but like at the end of it, whether it's a prebiotic or whether it's a probiotic, whether it's symbiotic or whether it's postbiotic, all of
Yeah.
them are going to benefit our body,
Yeah. Yeah.
So whatever form we take it. Of course, if you want to have the best benefits, you have to take it in the right way. So I think that's an
Absolutely.
important message that we get from you. And I'll see you in section 3.